Thank you so much for everybody coming out. My name is Ashton Lockhart, Executive Director of CITIED Foundation, and we started the Early Bird Social Worker Development Program here at Auburn for students who have an interest in the mental health career field. And so our purpose is really just to expose them to opportunities, to information, to people, to a network that really is just going to support them being the best that they can be, whether they choose social work or anything else, although I really hope that you choose social work. But if you don't, these opportunities, these things that we're doing together are really just meant to build you up and build your confidence and help you soar like a bird wherever you go. So that being said, if we can just take a moment of silence for our fallen community member, Jalea Thompson, because we're talking about teen mental health here today, and I think it would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge where we still have room to grow in our community. So if we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you for that. And so we are going to start with Ms. Kaya. She's just going to introduce a little bit about the panel, why we chose the panel. This is a new addition to our program this year. It was all the students' idea, but I wouldn't let them drop the idea because I thought it was so beautiful. And so Kaya was a part of that original discussion on getting that started. So she's just going to take a couple seconds to introduce why we're doing this here today.
Go for it. Staring at me. Don't be scared. With no bites.
You got this.
All right.
The reason we're doing this panel is because a bunch of people, mainly students, are struggling with their mental health and other things in their life. So they need someone to talk to, and bringing kids into this kind of work field is opening up the world in their minds to this, and they're able to help not only themselves but others. And so that's why we decided to do this and bring Auburn High School into this kind of program, because as we all know, a student killed herself because of bullying, and she was struggling mentally because of it, and that's what led it. And so knowing that people have the opportunity to help people and get help and also learn how to help themselves is a good reason we're doing this.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna ask Ms. Gabby to come up. She's gonna introduce you to your wonderful, wonderful panelists here, and then we'll get started with the questions right after.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce them one by one, and I'm going to ask you guys one by one to give us a brief introduction and what you guys do with mental health. First, we have Ms. Cameron Muhammad. She's a teen advocacy expert. And can you give us a brief introduction and what do you do with mental health?
Sure. Hey y'all, Miss Cam, that's what y'all can call me. So I've been working in youth development for roughly about 15 years now. I have past experience doing youth and teen programming for Rockford Park District at Washington Park, right around the corner. Also with the YMCA. And so now I'm transitioning into doing my own thing now and still empowering young people. And basically, for me, it has always been a priority. Well, I'm not going to say always. Let me stop lying. I would say at least since the pandemic hit. Right before that happened, I went through my own personal journey with having to prioritize my own mental health. And that led me to my first experience of engaging with a therapist that led me to 9 months of having to do some hard work that I had been avoiding for a long time, right? So after I completed that process for the first time, I saw personally the power of how that helped me heal and be the best version of myself. And I thought like, okay, if I would have had access to this as a young person during my adolescent years, I could be so much further than I am now in adulthood. So from literally that moment on, I started to incorporate that into the programming that I did. So we did some virtual learning at first when the pandemic hit, but then once everything opened back up, and we're able to come back face to face, I started doing focus groups. I started doing some shadowing with other mental health advocates to help me learn how to structure a focus group to create that to be a safe space and put my own spin on it. And then from there, my previous role, when I was at the YMCA, I went a step further and I was able to have actual licensed therapists that I worked very closely with that helped with, on a weekly basis, offering that mental health support to young people. Two of them being in the room, Dr. Kevin Thomas as well as Ms. Ashton. So I've always just been an advocate for making sure not only that young people feel empowered as they're trying to figure out life after high school, but also in the last at least 5 years, helping young people understand the power in healing and focusing on your mental health.
Next. Okay, next we have Dr. Kevin Thomas. He's a psychotherapist, executive director of the State of the Mind Institute. Can you give us a brief?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Kevin Thomas. I am a psychotherapist here in Rockford. My office is here on the, I guess, northeast side of Rockford. Been doing this for 16 years now. October will be 17 years I've been into the field. So for me, this came about by just people just seeing some things in me that said, hey, you ever thought about doing therapy? And at the time I worked in geriatrics, if you guys know what that, with older people. And so I took a chance, and when I got into the field, a lady gave me an opportunity and she said, you look like you understand the role of helping people. And I didn't even understand that. My wife says all the time that I've always been a therapist, and I never knew that. And she's seen that in me. And so I just want to speak from the standpoint of what Miss Ashton is doing with you guys is that she's seeing some things in you guys that you can take a great pride in, and hopefully you guys come into the field because we need help. You know, a lot of our young people, older people are struggling, and so we want to make sure that we have enough in the field that are licensed and have the confidence and the competence to help other young people. So I can sit here and tell you my story. I've dealt with youth, I dealt with adults, I dealt with marriage, family, you name it, trauma, all those things. So what in my practice, I really focus on adults, but I do deal with kids. I used to deal with kids quite a bit, and I kind of got burnt out. And I'm gonna tell you this because not to say that youth are bad individuals, but it takes a lot of energy to work with youth. You know, it really does. And so for me, I did it for 5 years, and I was on call 24/7. I worked with SAS for a little bit where I had to go to the hospital in the middle of the night, things of that nature. And so it got to the point for me, and this is just transparency, is that I got burnt out. And that's one of the things that you guys have to think about as you guys are getting into this field, that you're easily to get burned out because we're giving so much and no one ever gives back to us. And so, but as of right now, State of the Mind Institute is something that came about where a young man went through a situation at his church and barricaded himself in his home. And through that, because I knew him, the police called me. I'm getting a call from the police, right? Police called me and I went out to help them, but it didn't stop there. He immediately goes to the hospital and they didn't know how to care for him. And so me being there as a mental health professional, I advocated for him to get the help that he needed. And because of that, now today he's back in his engineering job. He's working full time, he's doing those things. But when we got to the hospital, they treated him like he didn't belong. And so from there came the State of the Mind Institute. And Representative West was one of the only leaders that welcomed me in and helped me. And so from that point on, we started the State of the Mind Institute, and now we train individuals how to advocate for one another and for themselves. That's what State of the Mind Institute is about, and I'm just a trainer. I train when it comes to mental health, because it's very important that we understand how to use mental health the right way and in the most healthiest way. Right. Because there's some out there that really don't care. And I'm just gonna be honest. I think we're in the living room, like you said, right? We're gonna be transparent. Some people, they get burned out to the point that they don't do their best job. They don't put their best foot forward. And so I want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward by training people how to understand what it takes for mental health. So that's me. Thank you.
Okay, next we have State Representative Maurice West. He's just a state representative.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Maurice West. I've been your state representative since 2019. And the reason why I'm so passionate about mental health is quite simple. Not only the fact that it's one of the most important things we can focus on, and I'll share that why in a minute, but my own lived experience. I'm also a preacher. I'm a preaching politician. And as an preacher, about to preach the gospel, I had dealt with suicidal ideology on Mother's Day of all days, right? And so it was eye-opening for me, not just because of what I was dealing with in my head, but it showed me, don't let the suit fool you.
Yeah.
You know, mental health has no respect. Mental illness has no respect of person. You can be the star of. You could be the most popular person in the school, but what's going on in your head, you know? And we all have dealt with it. We've seen someone who on Tuesday they're saying, hey, but on Wednesday they're ready to cuss you out. What's going on in their head? Yeah. Instead of us clapping back and cussing back at them, we have to understand what's going on with people's psyche. Yeah. And so as a state rep, I've been able to, hopefully y'all are partaking, but mental health first aid training in schools, helping our students to understand the signs of depression, the signs of suicidal ideology. I was a chief sponsor on that in 2019 or 2020 to ensure that you all as students are empowered to understand how you can help your fellow friends and students. Same for our teachers, how our teachers are able to take a mental health day, or just workers throughout our community are able to take mental health days, not just a sick day, but sometimes I just need to get my mind right. What's wrong with that, right? And so for me, mental health, ensuring that you're prioritizing your mental health is one of the most important things, because mental health helps with your physical health. If your mind's not right, how are you able to heal? Yeah. Right? If you're not motivated and you don't have the will to heal, how is your body going to be in alignment with what you're trying to do? Same with your financial health, your social health, your economic health. If my mental health is on par, I understand how to interact with people around me. I understand how to stay focused on my job of providing for my family, or stay focused on making sure I get good grades rather than having to work on what's going on in my head. So mental health is important in so many ways. I'm looking forward to our conversation about it.
Thank you, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Ophedia. And with my question, I want to bring our attention to trauma. People with trauma hardly ever get talked about in school settings, let alone supported or dealt with. So my question is, how does different types of trauma affect people? How can we see it? How can we support it?
Who goes first?
Question, yeah, who is that to?
We all answer or specifically?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if anyone has an
Traumatologist?
opinion, a response.
So there are multiple versions of trauma. It does vary from person to person. Depends on what your lived experience is. Anywhere from sexual abuse, neglect. That's a form of trauma as well. Tragedy like car accidents, house fires, natural disasters, things of that nature. So it's really dependent on the person, and then how they deal with it and how it's seen usually is in behavior. Most of the time, individuals that deal with trauma don't know how to compartmentalize or to bring it to the center. And when that happens, most of the time, we act out and different behaviors. And then too, we don't talk about it either. And so that's one thing is a trauma, I don't want to say victim, but a trauma individual will most likely all the time feel like no one understands them. And when you feel like no one understands you, you become silent. So what we have to do is we have to create safe spaces for them to be able to have those conversations. And then two, trauma is not like a group session type of thing. It's more of an individual one-on-one basis. If that makes sense to you.
Why did you not say victim?
So there are words nowadays that are very derogatory. When I say derogatory, they are hurtful and negative words, and they bring on a negative connotation to it. They have a negative meaning. So a lot of times when you say victim, you say survivors, that can trigger an individual that deals with trauma. They don't want to be looked at as a victim. They don't want to looked at as a survivor. So I just choose to use words like that. A lot of times people say problems, and I say challenges. Because wordings really do define a person sometimes. And so I'm careful of the words and the terms that I use because I don't want to further traumatize them when they're dealing with those symptoms.
For sure. I'll jump in and I'll add to that too. I feel that we all kind of touched on it already, just how we've experienced our own personal traumas or just what we've observed throughout the course of our careers, but specifically working with young folks. There's just certain phrases that I hear, whether it come from adults or even sometimes young people, where people are real quick to label and say like, oh, he bad or she hard-headed or just all type of just kind of what Dr. Thomas just said, negative words that demean that individual. And so, like I was just transparent earlier and I said I had to do therapy as an adult to try to unpack some things that I had been carrying around for the longest. And after doing that inner work, I found out that a lot of it stemmed from my childhood, from my adolescent years. So one thing that you all can do as you're learning more about how this impacts you and each other is being less judgmental and holding more space for each other and not being so quick to label when you're seeing an unfavorable behavior, because you never know what that person is carrying around. You never know what they experience, what they're going through. I find myself constantly having to remind young people of, hold on, wait a minute, shawty. Before you be so quick to speak on the next one, you don't know what they went through. You don't know what they go home to and what they have experienced and what they're probably still experiencing too in real time. So just wanted to add that tidbit as it applies to what you all experience on a day-to-day.
So what are some support ideas you guys have for in a school setting?
I think, I don't want to jump in here, but I think exactly what you guys are doing here. Like, Ms. Ashton has provided a safe space for you guys to be vulnerable, to talk about the things that you deal with on a daily basis. Do not discount these spaces because you don't get these often.
Right.
Like, there are not a lot of spaces out here where you can be vulnerable. And so this is a very important, and then it's incumbent on us to create more spaces like these for young people to feel comfortable, to feel heard, because that's what y'all are looking for, right? Is you want to be heard, and we need to create these spaces as adults and as leaders for you guys to come and have these spaces, because sooner or later, and more sooner, you guys are going to be us.
That part.
And we need you guys to take the torch and carry it on.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
I would say that's spot on. I would add to that, the most important thing you can do at your age you're in, and not just for the sake of your community, but for the sake of yourself, the most important, the most powerful thing you can do is embrace vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like I may be a state rep, but I ain't scared to tell you what I've been through, the bumps and bruises that I've been through, because a lot of times people have this facade and they want to say, yeah, I'm all that in a bag of chips. Look at me in my suit. And then there's somebody who's like, I just need you to tell me the truth so I can feel like I'm okay. But if I can never get to you, I'm never going to be okay. And that's going to bring people down a spiral. But if you are able to be raw and be vulnerable with each other, especially peer to peer, like your age group, be raw and vulnerable. Girl, what's wrong with you? I ain't feeling it today.
Yeah.
What happened? Let's talk about it. So you can feel better. Because if you just leave it, inside, it's gonna blow up. And who you gonna snap on? Who you gonna slap? How's that gonna affect you? But if we talk about it and we're able to help each other and build off of that, how more well-rounded of an adult you will be.
Absolutely.
You know.
Thank you. I will now pass the mic.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amaria, and my question is touching base with what you guys are actually just talking about. So, my question is, how do you help kids like me find a safe space if they never had one?
Wow.
I shouted from the mountaintops. I led in with my introduction just about like the different things that I've done throughout the years in terms of providing programming. Now, granted, everybody doesn't always know that that's going on. So I make sure to constantly repeat and remind
That part.
what's available. But then also with that, I've always made sure that offering these services to make sure, to make sure that we're addressing barriers that keep teens from being able to access that. So oftentimes I've always advocated in my programming for there to be a transportation aspect because that's always an area where young people struggle with either not having a car, not having people that can provide you with transportation because they have to work, provide for you, things of that nature. But then even outside of offering like group therapy or just peer groups, I think it's important too in programming to offer things that allow you to figure out just what brings you joy. And just through that can be different modalities that can teach you what you can tap into, what you can put in your toolkit. So if your mental health is struggling, you're like, okay, like if I'm not feeling it today, like Representative West said, maybe you need to do some yoga. Maybe you need to get outside and do a walk. Maybe you need to tap into a person that's your safe space that will allow you to vent and be yourself authentically, or maybe get into some art or poetry. Like there's so many different things that y'all can do. And oftentimes, I'm just keep it real with you. You may think it's whack. Like, I don't know if I got time to be doing no yoga. But
Yeah.
but typically, like when you step out of your comfort zone and you're vulnerable, like it was said up here, that will open up a world of things that you can do that again can help you with healing and can help you in those moments when you're tense or when your trauma is, negatively impacting you.
And I'll say something. I'm gonna add something to that, but I'm gonna add it in a way that I'm going to challenge you guys, is because we can provide these things, but there's an element of trust.
That part.
And I know how difficult it is to trust someone. So you guys have to identify a person that you trust, and they can help you with those resources. Because you see me on the street, I'm not going to say anything to him. Or you see Cam on the street, you're like, what? But you find someone that you can identify with, that you trust, that can help you go through that process of accessing these resources. Because we can pull up every day of the week up here to the school with a bus, but if you don't trust us that we're there for you to do the right things, you're not getting on the bus. So you guys first identify, you have to have someone until you find the ability to trust the other person. Because if you don't identify that, it's really hard for you to go straight into these programs.
I like that. And it's important for us, I think it was already mentioned, for consistency.
Yeah.
Making sure that if we put on if we put on this event and y'all liked it, and then Miss Ashton waits another year to put it on again, where's the consistency in that? Like if we were able to do it every other week, and then you're seeing, all right, she's committed to me.
Yeah.
There's an interest in me. There's an investment in me. It takes that kind of work, especially when you never had a safe space before.
Yeah.
Okay, so like with someone never having a safe space and you saying like you would need to be able to trust someone to like get that information to you. If you put your trust into someone and be vulnerable with them with that kind of information, what if it doesn't go the way you think it will? What do you do next?
Very good question.
So you're speaking of that person that you put your trust in now have let you down.
Yes.
Okay. So everybody is an individual. So just because that person let you down doesn't mean the next person will.
Right.
But I do understand that there's a struggle between trusting again. And so that's the work that you're going to have to do within yourself. But hopefully you have more than one person you can confide in that you can trust like that. Because that way, if someone else, if that person doesn't follow through with all the things that you expected of them, then you have to have someone else. But then also you got to be careful that you're not putting those expectations on a person that do not have the capacity to give you what you need. Okay? Because it's very often that we put our trust in people that they really can't do that for us.
Right.
And so when we do that, they let us down. Okay,
Yep.
so
That's good.
but that's my little bit.
Your TED Talk.
Thank you guys. I'm gonna pass the mic now.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ty Shanice, and in the world today, teens have a hard time speaking about their emotions and trauma because of the people that they ask for help are giving them examples of coping methods, but are not emotionally helping them deal with their problems.
Wow.
So my question today would be, how has the struggles and trauma of life changed your emotional awareness to children and teens now?
Can you repeat the
Yeah.
question
Yeah, that was
again?
intense.
That's deep.
That is.
How has the struggles and trauma of life changed your emotional awareness to children and teens now?
I feel like I got
I like
snapped
that. Yeah.
at.
I'm about to be enter my 40th year of life. Waiting to see who's gonna laugh. Okay, good. Because one day y'all gonna be 40. That's the plan, right?
Period.
Yeah,
Because if you ain't 40, that means you died young. And none of
Yeah.
us want to do that.
that's right.
But one thing I do know is that, especially when it came to Ms. Thompson that we just mentioned about, bullying looks different for y'all. Facebook started when I was in college, so I wasn't worried about
Right.
someone sliding in my DMs telling me off. They were bullying me in my face. Y'all got to deal with it on your phones.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. But trying to imagine is what we should be doing as the older generation. Are those who you trust, those older folks who you trust, we gotta be more intentional. Hey, what's going on with you? Is your inbox clean? Who's coming at you? Cyberbullying is real, and it's just you against the world, and no one knows because it's on your phone. What can we do to help us help you? Because we don't fully embrace that, because that's not what our experience was when we were your age. Right. But we have to be empathetic to that. We can't just say, oh, the generation, these young folks these days. No, your problems are real.
Yeah.
They are real. Right. What can we do to help you? So we gotta be flexible with that.
Thanks. For me, just as I have been able to professionally grow, just naturally, that has helped me become more empathetic to young people and the things that you all struggle with. But more so when I became a mama, when my son really hit his adolescent years, like middle school, that was like a wake-up call for me, because I started to see truly the difference from my perspective of being a millennial to him being a Gen Zer, like so many of you. And so we are, how can I put this without throwing shade? Millennials, like Representative West said, it was a different time. So like we had to deal with, in real time, the bullying or whatever the case may be, and being a lot more ruthless. Our bullies were a lot more ruthless and less politically correct. And so it hit harder. And so that led to us building a resilience where now we have it in our adulthood to where we're able to bounce back a little bit quicker.
That's it.
But with Gen Zers, because you guys have been afforded the opportunity to kind of get more support or just be more open with what you're experiencing and expressing it, that's actually a superpower. Like, that's helpful for y'all. So my son is a lot more emotionally mature than I was at his age.
Yes.
So him expressing to me when he was stressed, overwhelmed at first, I didn't get it. I'm like, suck it up. Like, it's just math class. Like, why are you so stressed over an assignment? But then when I started to see how that was ostracizing him and making him shut down, I'm like, all right, Cam, check yourself. You need to pull back because you're not really showing up for him in the way that he truly needs you. So that made me truly check myself, being more in tune with my son and seeing that, okay, like I need to meet him where he's at, and I need to stop treating him like he was one of my peers when I was a teenager, because he's not.
That's good.
Wow. Well, for me, it started real early, because of my girls all have dealt with some form of mental health, whether it be depression, anxiety, anger outbursts, things of that nature. I've always been aware of it, but in between that time, I realized just what Cam said, is that I had some unresolved issues with me. So I grew up with daddy issues, didn't have my father around, watched him raise another set of kids, and I was raised by grandparents. And so a lot of that kind of stuff, I had a lot of resentment. And so by me watching my daughters deal with some mental health challenges, I started to see my own. And so right there, I started identifying, it's like, okay, I'm dealing with something, they're dealing with something, how can I help them? And so that's kind of one of the things that made me go back to school. And I'll tell people now, therapy changed my mindset. It changed me as a person because now I can see the other side of it. I saw the trauma side of it, and I saw all the depression and the anxiety that my kids were dealing with, but also I seen the other side of it. It's like, wow, they are dealing with something different, something that they can't control themselves. So at that point, I made it my life's mission to make sure that I help others. And so it changed me in that way. And it was a drastic change because I went from a mean person to an empathetic person that understood that what Cam said, we were raised in a different time, and the resilience, a lot of us older ones know what a latchkey baby is.
Yep.
You know, we had to let ourselves in the house. Right. We had to raise ourselves, and nowadays a lot of young people don't have to do that because parents was there. And so I used to tell my kids all the time, my wife and I, we grew up in those projects right up the street there. Yeah, so that they didn't have to. And so now they don't even know what that is, right?
Right.
So in doing that, we kind of, I don't say cripple them, but we kind of stunt their growth because now they wasn't resilient as we were. So now I have to navigate that world. How do I help my kids become resilient? So I went into a mode of guiding instead of telling them what to do. And so I started guiding them through things that they can do to help themselves through their mental health. So for me, it was a drastic change, how I seen it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Rosemary, and my question is, how important do you think college is for future of teenagers?
I think it's important, but not as important as society makes it seem. And I say that because I personally have benefited from having a college education. I didn't have the most traditional approach, though. I had a lot of roadblocks once I transitioned from high school and thought I was grown and was out here doing the most. So it took me longer than what I would have liked, but it all ended up happening for a reason. So for me personally, it has been beneficial because, you know, I'm in a master's program right now as we speak to get my master's in social work because I have one goal of being a therapist someday. So I need college to get that licensure, right? So I can be able to do that. However, I still know plenty of people out here that have transitioned to adulthood and that live full, successful lives that have adopted trades. And they are entrepreneurs and they are living their best life. They're walking in their purpose. They're still pouring into their community. And while there was some level of training that came along with that, it did not require them to go to college. So that's something that I think is very important, working with young people and especially helping y'all identify what life after high school will look like is to teach y'all how y'all can explore all those different things because you do not have to do just a cookie cutter, just traditional route. There's so many different ways to get to that destination that y'all see yourselves getting to.
When we were I'll speak for myself because I'm sorry to say this, but I'm a Jefferson High School graduate. Why did I say I'm sorry to say
out,
that?
right? Y'all like,
I'm not sorry. I'm saying that with my chest.
Man, I feel sorry for you.
But I remember vividly at Jefferson, there was and I think it was all 4 high schools. There was a push for everybody to go to college. Just go, just go, just go. And now before you know it, you went to college, you got all this debt, and you have a degree that you have nothing, you have no passion in. And it was more of just go to college. But thankfully, the schools are shifting towards the trades, towards license, like getting the license or becoming certified. Because college ain't meant for everybody. No. And if you don't think you want to go to college, that's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
But you can get a license, you can become a certified. So when I say license, CDL, for example, just a truck driver, they make bank. with no
Definitely do.
student loans. Told you I'm 40. I graduated with my master's at 24. Still paying off student loans. And I'm still in the six figures because I've been running away.
Yep.
Forbearance.
Yeah. Right.
But if you are intentional, like if you want to be a nail tech, I see you, or you want to be a beautician, you don't have to go through the 4-year traditional route. You can go through get your beauty license, and now you're making money. But I would encourage y'all just to be intentional. Like if you want to be a therapist, yeah, you're gonna have to go to college. You're gonna have to go. But if you want to be an electrician, let's talk to the trades. If you want to get your hands into some things, maybe a laborer or a carpenter, let's talk to the trades. If you want to be a nail tech, let's talk and see where we can go for a short-term license that will get you on your feet. So yeah, college it depends on what you want to do.
So now I'm going to talk about it from the emotional standpoint.
I like it.
Because they have said everything that is 100% true. You don't have to go to college to be successful. You do, one, have to go to college if you want to be a therapist, licensed therapist, or a social worker. Two, is college is good for social and emotional connections, right? It also helps you with independent skills. Because when you leave mama's and daddy's nest and go and sit in a dorm by yourself, not knowing what you're going to eat the next day, or you going to find a box of noodles from somebody's dorm room. So like these are stepping stones, and I'm big on development. Like throughout the years, we develop into certain people, right? College gives you an opportunity to search your identity. That's why when most people go away for college, they come back and they're a different person because they've been able to find themselves through relationship building. And what we do as adults, we build relationships because those are the things that are really going to sustain us. So college can be a stepping stone in that way. Independence, emotional connections, social connections, those things are very important. And then when you're trying to be a therapist, you want to be in every circle you can to learn how to analyze people.
That's good.
I psychoanalyze a lot of people. When we're sitting here, I'm looking at how you're sitting. I'm looking at how you're sitting. I'm looking at the demeanors on your face, and that's telling me something. And so for me, I'm a little bit different. So and I pay attention. And I pay attention to everything. I see everybody that come in that door. So for me and myself and Ashton, we see things different than most people normally, if that's a word. See it. And so that's what college does from a social, emotional, and independence level.
Thank you.
I picked this question because of my personal experience online.
What's your name?
Ramaya, I'm so sorry.
No, you're
It's
fine.
okay. I just like to know on top.
Ramaya, and I picked this question because my personal experience online and dealing with talking to somebody I thought was way younger, was my age, but was way older than me. So, how do you think teens are affected by the information they receive from the internet and social media?
Man.
Who want to take this?
Man, when we were growing up,
We can take the rest of the time
Right.
talking on
I
that.
know, right?
we
Oh,
feel
wow.
for y'all.
Man.
When we were growing up,
So since we all are afraid to kind of touch this one, no, we're not. But I think for you guys, I think it's twofold. I think for you guys, you have to be social media responsible. And for us as the adults, we have to do the same. But I think that there's a little naive in there. And then there's some predatory things in there as well. So I think it's just a mixture of everything. You can't just really put your finger on it. You don't really have to do anything other than just be a teenager. Things start to seek you. People start to seek you because the internet is not accountable to anyone, right? We can go on different sites and we can do whatever we want to do. We can say whatever we want to say. Unless it's something that is outwardly threatening, then you won't get flagged for it. But then also there's a vulnerability of it where young people are vulnerable enough to say, hey, slide into my DM. Anybody can slide into your DM. They can say they're your teen, your peer, and they may not be. Because adults are savvy like that because they lived in this world. and now they have the opportunity to exploit that, and that's what they do. So it's a lot of stuff going on when it comes to that. So I just, I often pray for you young people that you really are careful with social media. You know, it's too, for me, this is just my personal opinion, it's too, it gives too much freedom.
Yes.
Because you're able to do some things on there that we would never think of as kids, you know, because we didn't have access. Not to say that if we had access, we wouldn't have been on there doing the same thing, but the freedom to do and to get on social media like you are, it just opens you up to a lot of other different things. And so when you open yourself up to those things, it doesn't matter who it doesn't matter who it is. You're inviting them there. So
I guarantee you, this room was stacked with more books when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Because that's where we got our information. Encyclopedias. Y'all have, you know, you can go straight to Google with your phone, which is great now, but y'all can be overseas in 0.3 seconds now.
Yeah.
Y'all international now, and that's stressful. We didn't have, CNN was not 24 hours a day when we were growing up. Now you guys got it on TikTok, on all the sites. You hear about all the stuff, the crazy stuff that's going on. And that means the way I look at it, my flat line of my stress levels was here growing up, but y'all's are up here.
Yeah.
Because if there was no cell phone back then, there was a payphone.
Yeah.
If I had to talk to you on the house phone, and if you weren't talking to me, I was twiddling my thumbs or doing something else. But you guys got your phone, and it could just snatch you up, and before you know it, it happens to me. I'll be on reels for hours.
Me too.
Right?
Right. Be honest. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not your fault.
No.
Right.
No.
First thing, what happened? It ain't your fault.
No.
There's a lot of temptations on the internet too,
There
and
is.
like real,
Ease.
real
your
like
fingertips.
stuff that I don't know. Just can't talk right now.
No,
But
that's
I hope y'all know what I mean.
We
We
know.
picking up what you putting down,
we know.
Ramaya. We feel you.
We
you for
know.
Yeah, no, low key, y'all are at an advantage because the internet really is such a dope tool to use in terms of research or even just putting yourself out there, networking, like really like trying to transition to what the next chapter is going to look like for you all. However, unfortunately, it can be equally damaging though, because you all are not as thoughtful or intentional about the pages or people that you engage with. And again, it's not your fault because it can easily present itself as one thing and turn around and be something totally different later on down the road. But when I had this conversation with young people, I just talk about just how you have to be careful about what you're consuming. Because before you know it, like you're being conditioned and programmed to think that these are things that you have to acquire or standards that you have to meet. So I think that with standards of beauty, sometimes it can have a negative toll on young people because you think you have to look a certain way or you have to dress in labels or you know, you think you have to match what your influencer look like, or you think you got to do all these extreme things so you can get crazy streams like Kai Cenat or what's his name with the aura? Who's the aura boy? Y'all know. Who? Is it Ray? Rakai? Y'all know that? Yeah, y'all know Rakai. Why y'all looking on?
See?
Don't play. See?
Yeah,
Y'all influence like, oh,
they
yeah.
know, yeah.
But y'all know he be doing the most though. So a lot of times I feel that young people think that they have to carry themselves in a certain way to get a certain level of validation or popularity, or you know, I wish that that's one thing that you guys can be just a little bit more responsible, like Dr. Thomas said, where you don't have to sell your soul or sacrifice who you are just for likes or just for followers. So I think that that's something that can help y'all as you're utilizing it to work to your advantage, is if it's something that's making you question who you are or making you feel less than, or if it brings any type of negative emotion, that's probably an account that you need to unfollow because it's doing more harm than good.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ramaya.
Hi.
Hey.
All right.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. We hear you. We hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Deasia. So, kids and adolescents. Okay, so this is from that I grew up around me, and like I personally feel this way.
as like a adolescent or a teenager. So like kids and adolescents often feel dismissed when it comes to their mental health due to always hearing hurtful comments from adults such as you're too young to be stressed, toughen up, and you don't know what stress and unhappiness feels like. You're young and you'll be fine. How do you challenge your peers when they make dismissive or harmful statements about teen mental health?
I'm big on that, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great statement. So for me, cause I'm reaching a certain age, is that I'm more protective over the youth than my peers, cause I'm gonna tell them, like I'm gonna get them off your back, pretty much. But I'm also gonna go into a little bit of more of a history thing. The toughen up and the you can handle it. You know, it comes from again a space where we were bred to be more resilient. A lot of stuff happened throughout history that allowed us to have to be. There were marches. There were slavery. There were Jim Crow years.
Yeah.
There were all these things that you really didn't have time to be in your emotions, right? You didn't have time to think about the social aspect of a relationship, or you didn't have time for those things. So you had to kind of be tough. And so now we're transitioning into these years where we're no longer fighting those type of fights. Now we're fighting mental fights. And so now the mode of dealing with things changes. And so for us though, is that we have to hold our peers accountable because the context is different and the time is different. We have to be able to understand that because our young people are struggling right now. And for someone to say something, toughen up, or for me as a therapist, it's only right. That's my duty to make sure that they don't say anything that's going to hurt you. You know, and so if we take it as a personal responsibility as adults, then we're going to also make sure that our peers take it responsible as well. Like we are peers. Us three here, we're peers, and you can bet if somebody says something, we're gonna be on it. And so that's what it's going to take is those circles of individuals to come together and make sure that everyone else knows the same thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah, very similar to Dr. Thomas. I don't play about young people neither. I don't allow negative statements to be made in my presence because like I said earlier, have become more empathetic to the challenges that you all are dealing with on a day-to-day. But just being transparent, like I also said earlier, I was not always in that space when it came to my own. So some of those statements you said, it was stinging. I'm like, ooh, I know I done said that to my son before, you know? Yeah. And it took time and maturing. But then also just as I started to find my purpose more, and I had to just have a self-awareness. And before I check others, I check myself first. Right. But I think that is just important, whether it be in public or even private. That's where a lot of times people get comfortable and they'll make all those slick remarks. And they'll be like, oh, these kids today, they just ratchet. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, when the last time you even talked to a young person? Right. And then they'll be like, ooh. But that's just my personality. In case y'all haven't picked up on it yet, I'm very opinionated, a little spicy. But so like I regardless of how big or small the conversation is, I make sure I got time every single moment. If that crosses my path and I catch wind of there being a shady remark made about a young person, I'm like, oh, absolutely not. Like, you don't get to do that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I would say that I feel like the three of us also, we were right at the cusp of an age where our parents did that.
Yeah.
And we remember how it felt when we were told to toughen up. I remember how we
do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and I know I can't toughen up just by you telling me.
Right.
So I'm not gonna do that I'm not gonna be the one to do that too. I know how it feels.
Yeah.
And I feel like as the generations go by, it'll be more and more sympathetic to
for sure.
the mental health of our young people. But Dr. Thomas, you said it right. My focus was making sure I wasn't killed on the way home.
That's it.
I don't have time to think about my emotions if I was born or I was living in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Right.
So of course our parents are going to be in that hard survivor mode
All the time.
Thankfully, we don't have to be as much in that survivor mode. Right. Let's talk about emotion. So I think we'll get there as the generations go by.
Okay, so like, how can you help teenagers that feel trapped like in their particular situation that they feel they cannot talk to somebody?
If you've had the
Due
ability,
to like confidentiality, or like finding the right person, or not really wanting to
Yeah.
get the help because like you don't, yeah, like.
what I was gonna say was, if you've had the ability to identify an adult that is a safe space for you, then maybe see if you can lean on them to help facilitate that conversation.
Yeah.
You do have to be very careful because, like you said, sometimes there are instances where, unfortunately, maybe a parent or a guardian may not be at a space where they can hear or receive that feedback. But also, don't always discredit them either, because I used to have daddy issues too. I'm still working through them, like Dr. Thomas mentioned in his personal life. And with our parents being old school,
Yeah.
it's some topics where it feels like it's just hopeless, like they just stuck in their ways. But I've had to, in my big grown age, have to talk to my dad about some stuff that I thought he would never listen to. But doing therapy with him and having that therapist as my safe space in a neutral party, I've been able to be like, hey, I haven't always felt emotionally safe with you. I don't feel like you've always listened to me. And this is what I need from you in terms of moving forward. And this is how I would like to be loved. And so he took it. He listened because we were in a safe setting. So again, everybody's circumstances is different. So I don't want to set anybody up for any disappointment, but just giving you hope to see that if you are able to find someone that can be the middleman and the mediator, that sometimes you'll be surprised at what that outcome will be and what that adult will be able to receive in terms of correcting some of their harmful behavior.
And it goes back to what was mentioned earlier. It's all about being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You got to tell yourself, I have trust issues, but I know I need help. For example, like here in the school setting, I don't know who to go to, but I have a teacher. Let me just be vulnerable with this teacher and share how I'm feeling. But I get it, that teacher may not accept it, but for your own sake, for your own self, you gotta just discount that and then keep on moving forward, trying to find that person who can help you find that connection, that where you can start talking about what's going on and start getting built up. It's about you. At that moment, it's about us being our own personal brand. I know that I don't have the trust issues. I have trust issues right now, but I know that if I don't deal with this, it's going to bite me in the behind later. So let me focus on this now. Okay, here we go. I'm going to talk to this teacher.
Yeah.
I got to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my
Hi.
name is India.
Okay.
I'm just gonna give like a little intro. I've been in this program since I would say December, and struggling with mental health, it has helped me a lot. So it's helped me learn more about myself and how to just deal with certain stuff, learn why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking or why I act the way I act. So very appreciative to be on this panel. But my question for you guys today is, how do you guys challenge the stereotype and negative outlook surrounding teen mental health?
How do we say it again?
How do you guys challenge the stereotype and negative outlook surrounding teen mental health? So it's similar to Deaja's, but it's like, how do you change that when some people, like Ms. Cameron said, are stuck in their old ways or think how they think?
Well, you can't. Number one is you have to always know that you're responsible for you, and that means you can't change anyone else. So the best thing is again what Miss Ashton is doing here today, and what we all do out in the community, is that we have to do more of these type of settings and creating these safe spaces for our young people. And teaching them and training them that it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to be vulnerable in certain contexts. It's okay to talk about what happened yesterday and how you felt about it. And so the more of these things that we can do, so the word stigma, I don't like it. I try not to use it. All that says is we don't talk about it. That's all it says. So if we talk about it, we no longer say it's a stigma. So the more we do these type of events and these type of create these type of spaces, that's how we start to allow people to soften up some of our older members, soften up to start to try to and want to understand what is going on with our youth. So for me, because I am a trainer, this is it. These type of events, these type of spaces.
Yeah. I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier by saying that I challenge just people within like my day to day. But then another thing that I've done very unique to my professional journey is I like to challenge decision makers too. I'm kind of a troublemaker a little bit in a good way. So like for example, I served on the RPS 205 school board for a short amount of time. And one thing that I saw very quickly when I was in that role was oftentimes when discipline decisions got to that level of decision making when it came to the board, a lot of times when we looked deeper into the situation, it was looking a little hazy. It's like, hold on, wait a minute. Like, this is not just a situation of a student. I knew this because I've been in the field working with young people, right? So I could read it on paper and be like, hold up, like, this is not just a student that's like just trying to break a rule or that's just, just trying to like go against the status quo, whatever. There's something deeper going on here. And there were times where in that setting, we were privy of knowing a little bit more about that student. And then you can see that they've been struggling since they've been in elementary. But by the time they're in high school, now they're potentially up for expulsion because of really their mental health not being, properly addressed or them not getting resources. So I just started having tough conversation and asking questions about, have they ever been introduced to any of the social workers here? Where's the social worker notes? Like, where have we tried to intervene to where we can make sure we're doing everything humanly possible to save this child before they've gone off into left field? So that's hard, but when you do that enough, then that can kind of shift the mindset a little bit of the people that are in the seats that make different policies or like y'all code of conduct to where then they revise it. So that way it's more helpful and it's not, impacting students on a negative basis. When I've been in leadership roles for different organizations, I'm always advocating for underserved communities, especially young people. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like, okay, I have access to these funds in my budget to do all these creative things in my programming. Let's get some therapists in here so that way we can use our platform and our space so we can truly be making sure that we're addressing community needs. So I think that that's something unique that we all can do in our different spaces is advocate on a bigger level so that way there can be policies that are tagged with that are matched with the best practices. So that way that's not only helping you all, but ultimately the next generation that comes after. So that way it's more helpful and it's not, impacting students on a negative basis. When I've been in leadership roles for different organizations, I'm always advocating for underserved communities, but especially young people. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like, okay, I have access to these funds in my budget to do all these creative things in my programming. Let's get some therapists in here so that way we can use our platform and our space so we can truly be making sure that we're addressing community needs. So I think that that's something unique that we all can do in our different spaces is advocate on a bigger level so that way there can be policies that are tagged with, that are matched with the best practices. So that way that's not only helping you all, but ultimately the next generation that comes after you too.
I love how you brought up the code of conduct because I was thinking of how we're in the space right now where society is moving away from punitive to restorative, and what I mean by that, punitive, you broke the rule, you're going to detention.
Preparing them for prison.
Period. Restorative, you broke the rule. Why? Let's talk about why. Okay, let's get you the resources so you won't break the rule again. And it's been a shift. You've heard that a ship you have to take your time to turn a ship. If you try to turn it real quick, it'll topple over. That's where we are in society. People want to remain punitive, throw them, lock them up, throw away the key. While we're seeing society also leaning towards let's not just lock them up and throw away the key because when they come out, what did they learn? And so I feel like we're generation by generation we're transitioning, but that's exactly what we got to do. We got to start speaking truth to power, correcting people when they want to talk ill on the young people just because when they were young, the older generation talked ill about them, so they think that's a rite of passage. No, we got to change that because it's affecting our young people's mental health.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lorenzo. So, a lot of kids and teens, including myself and others, has been struggling balancing mental health. So my question that I want to ask is, what advice do you have for kids and teens on balancing responsibilities and taking care of their mental health?
Self-care first.
That part.
You have to take care of yourself. You owe it to yourself to make sure you treat yourself, and that's mentally, physically, emotionally. If you're not in a good space, there's nothing else anyone else can do if you're not willing to get into that space.
My name's
So you
Lorenzo.
really have to
So,
look and take care of you first.
a lot of kids
Everything
and
else is pretty much
teens,
secondary.
inclings myself and
And so
others,
when we
has
start
been
taking care of other
struggling
things outside
balancing
of
mental health. So my
ourselves,
question
that's
that I
what
want to ask
we
is,
find a hard time
what
dealing
advice
with
do you
life.
have for kids and
It's like
teens on
we're worried
balancing
about school,
responsibilities and
but
taking care of their
we're
mental
not
health?
eating well. We're worried about school, but we're not getting enough rest. You know, things of that nature. And so we want to make sure that first thing is self-care. Take care of you first, and then everything else you can take care of later.
I'm really big on communication, and I know that that's not always easy for young people to do that because y'all still trying to figure out how to express yourself, or sometimes you may be intimidated in moments where it requires you to speak up and advocate for yourself. But finding out a way where you can let people, the adults in your network know that, like, okay, say for example, you're in school and you're having a really bad day and the teacher is on you and want you to participate or engage or something, finding a way to let them know that hey, today I'm not able to, I'm having a bad day. Yeah. finding your own unique way to say that could potentially help them from being able to continue to tap on you, because we can't read your minds and we don't know what you guys are going through. Nope. If you at the crib and your mama done told you better wash them dishes and take that garbage out, but again, you having a bad day.
Yep.
And they come home and it's not done, what's your parents gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Right, it's going up. Yeah. But if maybe before they come home and see that it's not done, you beat them to the punch and say, hey, I'm having a really bad day, or maybe I'm not ready to talk about it right now, but I need a few minutes, or then that way they can prepare themselves to allow you some grace and some extra time to do that at a later on in that evening. They ain't gonna wait too long, but that'll buy you some time. So that way, again, they can give you some grace and they know what's going on. So I think just finding ways to communicate just that you're not okay without going into the details is the first step in the right direction of just being able to balance when you're supposed to do something versus when you can't.
No, that was good. I lost my train of thought. What I just heard from both of them, because if you learn how to do this now, it's the same thing you can do when you become older and when you start having even more responsibilities. But being intentional with your self-care, being intentional with your communication is key. Because even to this day, growing up, you're going to need to understand how you can cope and how you can get yourself in a position where I am taking care of myself. Mm-hmm. So for example, this, I'm not worried about this group, but I've been in a crowd of people that I know for a fact, they do not like me. And they want to talk to me about some issues. And I'm sitting right here in the hot seat, stressed about the way they're looking at me. I'm all the things I'm thinking about. I'm a black man. The majority of these folks are white. They're looking at me with disdain. You see what the politics look like on the outskirts. And so when I get home, you know what I do? With my self-care, I'll put on some flannel pajamas. Laugh at me if you want to, but I am comfortable, I'm at peace, I know where I'm at now. I don't have to, when I do that, it means drop the guard, Reese. Yep. Because if I keep that guard of being stressed, stress is a silent killer. Before you know it, you're aged prematurely. Why are you, hey, it's your 40th birthday? I'm only 23. Yeah. Why do you look so haggard?
With high blood pressure.
With high blood pressure, yes. High blood pressure, diabetes, heart attacks at young ages. But if you learn how to self-care, Yeah, let's go to X, Y, and Z. Nope, I
Yeah.
gotta go home and get me into a good book.
Yeah.
Because I need to take care of my mind. Because I tell you, when I get home today, you know what I'm gonna do. Put those PJs on
That's
and
it.
play with my daughter. And now my mental health is being strengthened
There you
after
go.
a long day. So if you learn that now as a young person, that's something you can start perfecting in your 20s, 25, 30. And you still consider young in those ages because they've been past us. And you're in a position where you're able to understand who you are and what you need for your own mental health.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Lorenzo gave us our final question. We have just a few minutes. If there's any additional questions from audience members that you'd like to ask these wonderful experts up here, pick their brain about mental health, teen mental health, or just mental health in general, now is the time.
All right.
I'm scared. Why y'all looking at each other?
They'll have a million questions once we leave, you know, right?
Yeah, right.
And I ain't gonna send the questions.
She got one back there.
So thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing. I think this is an incredible opportunity. My question is how can you continue to plant seeds and be brave and courageous to overcome those systemic barriers that we're constantly facing, such as policies or things like the code of conduct, or just things that are in our society right now that yes, we've made great strides towards, but things are still not where they should be. How do you maintain that courage to continue pushing forward?
Yeah.
I'll say for me, just connecting with people like this is like, you keep your circle small, as they say, keep it small, but being in contact with like-minded people always encourage you to keep fighting. And then also knowing that the seeds that you're planting are just what they are, seeds. They're not the actual plant. They're not the actual outcome. They're actually seeds. And so for me, just to know that I got Cam here that is still working toward this thing, and I have Maurice there still working toward this, and I'm still working toward this, that means I don't have to do this, and I don't have to do that. We have our part to play. So that's encouraging to me,
Right.
that I don't have to do all of that, and they don't have to do all of that.
Right.
So having that space and those individuals in your circles that you can always tap into to encourage you to continue that, it's not just about the moment, it's about what's going to be tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. That is very important to stay aligned with like-minded individuals because the fight can be very daunting and very tiring. And you're not always going to see the fruits of your labor. And you have to be okay with knowing that, I've run this leg. Now it's time to pass this baton because I'm tired. So just being honest with yourself in those moments when you are tired and not being afraid to pause or to pivot or to rest. And tag the next person in is important, but also just keeping the conversation going is power in that, because a lot of times people aren't aware of how these different spaces or through these different things that you can still make an impact. So, when I was on the board, and even now that I'm no longer on it, I would bring up the code of conduct all the time because there's listening sessions where people can still pull up and come, and you don't have to be the one leading the parade. You can just be in the back, just listening, taking notes, and seeing like, this don't sound right, or I didn't notice, so just taking that information and paying it forward can still start a movement unintentionally to where that's, helping other people understand their part that they can play in that particular cause or that fight if that resonates with them.
And that's a good question. I think we have a lot of leaders in here that can help with that. What you guys just said, I'll speak it from a policy perspective. I walk through the Capitol, and I have people coming to me saying, hey, we want to pass X, Y, and Z. And I take their little fact sheet, and I say thank you, and I'll read it, and I'll keep it moving. But when I see someone from Rockford that comes to Springfield, hey, Representative Kirk, I have to stop everything. Hold on. This is the boss I got to speak to.
Right.
What do you think the school board's going to do when they see y'all pull up? When they see students come in, I got to talk to y'all. And they're like, hold on, Excuse me?
Yeah.
And now parents are like, oh, my baby just came and spoke truth to power. Now the parents are involved.
Yeah.
My friend is over there advocating on the school board. Now their friends are involved. Y'all started a movement.
Yep.
But how many students did you see pull up at the school board in your tenure?
Well, I had some of my teens come
Besides
pull
you.
up.
You bring her with you. She come ready to go.
I'm
Right,
just saying
yeah.
because
You're an
that
anomaly.
that allowed young people to see the power that their voice has, and that is a space where there's still value in them speaking about what concerns them. But outside of who I directly knew and encouraged to come, other than that, it was tumbleweeds in that crowd. Like, and school board is not as sexy as all the other stuff as city council and the state politics and whatnot. So it was very rare when we would have teens there, let alone even parents, unless it was a situation where they were upset. And then they come and they get on the mic. So there are opportunities in just small spaces like that y'all aren't used to going to, where if you step out of your comfort zone and you just speak authentically from the heart, where you make people have to pay attention and have to listen. And then they're like, oh, okay, like I need to do better. That's holding them accountable.
Real attracts real. If they see that you just fake about it, they know they don't have to, they can keep that guard up and you just saying noise. But if you're being raw and vulnerable like we talked about, and you're saying this is how it's affecting us, they're gonna gravitate towards that. And then the right people who resonate with what you're saying, they're gonna say, hey, I love the way you talked about it. How can I help you in your cause?
Yep.
And now you're starting to build relationships. You're starting to get people on board with what you're trying to do. And now you're bringing forth change from y'all.
Yep.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Be scared. Don't be asking me for no emails after they leave. You got them right here.
I have another one if no one else has questions. From your perspective, and even from students' perspective, what does anybody know, like what is being done right now regarding teen suicide prevention in the schools? Is there being anything done? And if so, like, do you guys have any insight to things that can be done that haven't been done yet? Because I am constantly searching for, like, why are we not doing this or why are we not doing that? And that's been going on for years. So I'm just curious if you guys have any insight to either something that's up and coming or something that's being done right now.
May I start with that one?
Yes.
So that's a great question, because on the state side, I hear some things like that. This is happening in the schools. Oh, that sucks. Let's work on that. Let me put some legislation together. Let's work on that. I put the legislation together, and then and I'm not saying RPS. I'm just saying school boards in general, the School Board Association. Excuse me, sir. The school boards need to be making those decisions. That's an unfunded mandate. I'm like, our students are crying out for this to happen, and I can't just ask for it to happen in Rockford. It needs to happen at Chicago public schools, Alton public schools down south, Carbondale. It has to happen everywhere. It's an unfunded mandate. The school board should be doing it. That's why I mentioned to y'all, go to these school board meetings. I had a legislative thing with the school board 2 weeks ago, and almost every question that the students were asking were great. And my only answer was, that's a phenomenal question. Talk to the school board. Because I can do it, they ain't gonna accept it from me. It has to come from the school. It has to come from the local level. So full transparency, it might be hard for you because you got a job to keep. But our students, that's where they'll be scared of our students. If y'all come and put truth to power and voice these concerns, they can't fire y'all.
Yeah. It's hard to argue when it's coming from the source.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Right.
I will say to that as well is when that happened with young lady Thompson, we had a panel discussion, and one of the things that I brought up, and this is across the board with anything citywide, statewide, mental health wise, is that we quickly develop amnesia. It happens, yes. Next week, we're on to the next. And so one of the things that I made a choice to do is, in my advocacy class, I had 28 baby boomers in my class 2 weeks ago. And I made a point to stop teaching them about other things in mental health to address suicide. And also about what they thought about suicide, because the baby boomers, they're that section of individuals that wants you to suck it up, wants you to just use your resilience and push past it. And so I took the time and I did set them up. I'm gonna be honest with you. I set them up with some things, some questions, and they said exactly what I knew they would say. But then I also went back to the kids. What are they dealing with? What are some of the things that they're experiencing? And so I'm going to continue to push that in my classes. That's what I can do. And so what he's saying is we all have a part to play, that we don't develop this amnesia. We're not saying you got to go out and start a whole new movement, but just what Cam said, we need to talk about it. Any chance you can, let's be talking about it. And if you can put some resources together and put behind it, you'll have support from other entities. But for the most part, we do what we can in our circles when it comes to suicide prevention. And until we can get some type of real movement and funding behind it, we have to do what we can on our levels.
Yep.
I know I'm not on the panel, but I'm itching over here. So much to say. I'm gonna make it real short, and we're gonna let Ms. Afidia ask our last audience question. This is what I do. I work with kids 85% of the time, teens 85% of the time. Nobody's asking them. Nobody. That's what this event, that's why it was created.
Wow.
All of them, from the beginning of the program. I didn't even ask them the question. I just kept hearing it. I asked this person, they're not listening. Yeah, but this person's not listening. They're not listening. They're not listening. They said it 25 different ways in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Nobody's asking them. So how do we make decisions about people and we're not asking the people? That doesn't work in any setting.
No.
And so I think that's what I'm saying. So
Great.
we just need to ask them more and they will tell you. I
Agreed.
promise.
That part.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
That and then some.
Ms. Afidia, give us our last audience question.
How do we find out about these school board meetings?
Ooh.
Yes.
So
That's good. Yeah, right?
that's what I love to hear. Google can be your best friend. So go to RPS 205's website, and then there's a section dedicated to the board, so you can see pictures of all of the board members. And then it also has a schedule there, so you can see. I'm rusty, so I'm not gonna give you the wrong information, but they do meet 3 times a month. Usually it's on Tuesday nights. And do you know where the admin building is at downtown? That's always where the meetings are at. So that's a good starting point to just go in and sit in on one and just start listening and seeing what they're talking about. They're very approachable. You can introduce yourself if you like before or after the meeting. I would recommend looking and introducing yourself to the board president, Ms. Denise Pearson. This school, Auburn, is in her sub-district, and she's very connected with the community.
Yes.
And I can say with full confidence that she will listen if you reach out and you speak to her.
Am I allowed to just show up?
Heck yeah.
Absolutely,
Yes.
it's open to
Heck
the
yeah.
public. It's literally open to whoever wants to come.
Yes.
Yep. There's a portion that they do that's closed, but there's always a part that is open for everybody to come and to listen and to see what they're making decisions on, to hear about the policies and hear about budgets, everything that's going on within the district. Yep.
Yeah, you can go to school board for free, council meetings for free, state,
County board,
county board for
Everywhere.
free,
all
the
that.
state for free, the Capitol in Washington D.C.
Park district
It's
board.
your house. You
Yep.
can go there for free too.
It's your house. I like that.
If you are a person, young people, I'm just gonna challenge y'all because I love challenges. People say you always challenge us. I'm gonna challenge you guys. If you are a person that you feel, which you all have a voice, that you have a voice that needs to be heard, you need to be bold. You need to challenge the status quo or what's the everyday norm. You need to stand up. Believe it or not, you will have so much support if you just stand up. Just what Ms. Ashton said is like, those questions that you're asking, go to the places that you need to ask those questions. Ask what you just asked. How do I get here? And go to those places and be yourself. You don't have to put on a dress and a 3-piece. Just go as you. Show up with whatever you got, Ebonics and all. It don't matter. Okay? Just show up and be you and be bold. We will listen.
Yep.
The right people will listen.
You may be scared, but that's okay. I'm a grown man in state as a state rep, and I've done things that freaked me out.
Yeah.
To this day, in 2025, Lord, I don't want to do this, but I know it's the right thing to do. But that's being bold, that's being brave.
Yeah.
Don't let your fear keep you from doing that.
That's when you do your best work too.
I'm
When you
telling you,
scared.
man, I know that's
That
right.
part.
Well, if we could give our panelists a hand.